You're listening to Rodney Rogers Outdoors Radio, where we turn it upside down and look at the outside from the inside out. It's safe, it's legal, and we're having a blast. So put your shoes on, my friend, because we're going outdoors.
Welcome to Rodney Rogers Outdoors. I am Rodney Rogers. That right there is my partner, Coach Ethan Crime.
I hope you're ready because the plane has left the ground, the wheels are up, and we're going somewhere.
Mike the man himself, Coy, and this is our 1 hour vacation for the week.
It's our time to turn it off, right?
This is it, man. This is
Shut it down.
This is the whole, and this hour flies by too fast. If you want to reach us tonight, you can do it a couple different ways. If you want to talk to us personally, feel free to give us a call at 262. What is our phone number, Mike?
262-345-7763, and they'll find it right there on the screen right in front of them.
You know where I was going with this? My first numbers to my driver's license is 262. So, and I know it by heart, and I almost said my driver's license number. What?
I have never gotten my phone number mixed up with our driver's license number.
It's.
Did you really?
Yeah, because mine starts out R262, and so our number is 262.
Mine is C000. That'd be a tough one to mix up with your phone number.
001.
Yeah. But that's all I
Been a
know.
while.
I don't know anything past
Really?
that.
Oh,
That's
man.
just so unique. It wasn't hard to.
I can jam out my hunting license number, my
Can you really?
ID number, my driver's license number, and Social Security of all my family that's close enough to me that I know their numbers.
No way.
Don't let it slip.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
I know. Yeah. And if for some reason
That's
it sticks.
impressive.
Yeah. So
Wow.
you can also hashtag us on Twitter. You can reach us on Twitter.
Tweedledee.
Right there on Mike's face. It'll pop up right in his face. Hashtag RROR. Just like it will pop up a little 3D, what's those? Hologram butterflies.
That'd be cool.
Oh, man, Mike. Oh, if the hologram popped up right here between us and we both could read it.
It's coming.
Oh, we could do
Pretty
it.
soon all this goes away.
Yeah, we're just,
Switching to
and
like
we're doing this.
Questions come out of a little box
Yeah.
and they just kind of circulate. And how do I catch bass when it's raining?
And then we can just like diagram it right here. Cast right there. Cast right there. Go, go,
I
go.
know. Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be awesome. It might be a little far-fetched on that one.
Just this year.
Mike, how's your shoulder? I see we don't have a brace on at the moment.
Yeah, it's you know what? It's sore. It's sore.
You're in your therapy now?
Yeah,
You're
it's
kinda
sore.
getting-
This is technically, I think, some-ish, give or take a week. Last week for the sling, so I wear it at night, actually when I'm sleeping, because it's. But whatever. But next week, no, we got one more week.
One more week.
Next week will be here, and then the following Wednesday is we're going to do the right one.
Nice.
So I have a feeling this configuration is going to change slightly.
Okay.
I'm thinking you and I might just switch sides.
Yeah.
I just switch everything that side, and I'm left-handing it from there.
Well, okay, I got you.
Yeah, because you know what? I like that anyways, because quite honestly, I've got a prettier background than you do.
Yeah.
And I would love
yeah.
your mug over here getting this kind of
I got you.
glamorous attention.
Exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pretty exposure. Well, I hope it all goes well.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Rodney.
Because I cannot control all this by myself. I mean, I'd be in here, Mike gone, and I don't know what.
I
button
thought
to
about
push.
talking the executive producer to come in here trying her hand at switching, so
Yeah, oh,
who knows what'll happen. But we've got some fun stuff coming up.
This could take us in different directions. I mean,
Yeah.
totally.
We're talking about doing some cooking segments on here. We're not limited to these two chairs, these two rocking chairs here.
Exactly. So yeah, Mike and I we always have our pre-production meeting at our favorite place, which is Gnarly Barley. So on Tuesdays now we have it set up to where we meet on every Tuesday early.
Yeah.
Enough that we actually get to start our vacation a little early. Actually,
It's nice. It's a working vacation, Rodney.
it is a working.
It's a tax write-off vacation.
Exactly. Anytime you can eat it gnarly and write it off, that's awesome.
So what have you been doing? What'd you do this
So this weekend, I did go off fishing Saturday. We went offshore fishing. We were trying to, over the years of trolling, and not on the internet, I mean out in the ocean. I mean, not trolling people. but I
Real
mean
trolling.
Real trolling. Basically what you do is when you ride all over the internet, When you get your car, you just ride down the internet road.
You just troll those roads, the back roads
You
especially.
you're trolling everybody. But when you're out in the ocean and you're in your boat and you're trolling, a lot of times you'll come across humps and bumps and little things out there, and you mark those on your GPS because because your thinking is I'll come back and I'll fish that and see if there's anything on it, see what it is. Could be a sunken boat, could be anything that holds fish, grouper, snapper, and the whole 9 yards. So Saturday that was our thing. We just wanted to grab the rods, go off, and start checking those humps.
Sure.
Mahi season is real slow right now. We probably could have caught a few, but it just wasn't in our. We specifically said we're going to go look for these bottom spots and see how we do, and we caught a lot of sharks. We actually took Ariana, which is Manny and Stacy's little niece. She was 12 years old, and man. One of her, she was catching little black bass, little baby red grouper. We were hitting little fish here and there, and then she caught a shark.
Had she been out deep sea fishing before? So this
is our first trip. So of course, while I'm catching baits, I'm catching croakers for baits, and I'm letting her reel in the croakers. And then once we got to fishing, it was kind of boring. She goes, I don't like the actual fishing part, but my gosh, the reeling is awesome. And I go, yeah, that's all of us. We're all out here for the catching. It's the fishing, that we're having a problem with. So she hit it right on the head. She goes, I don't like the actual fishing part.
The waiting, not so much.
Exactly. She goes, but that reeling, that's awesome. So she, as a matter of fact, she caught them pretty quick because one of the rods we just set in a rod holder while we were doing something else, and it just took off. It was like, it just bent over and took off, and she ran over, pulled it out of the rod holder. I thought it was going to pull her in, and that was the shark she caught.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So, we caught a lot of sharks. So, if you're like a shark person out there and you're like, there's no sharks, there's plenty of sharks. Shut up.
Shark Week.
There are plenty
Shark Week.
of sharks in the ocean because that's pretty much all we caught.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, Manny put his bait overboard and there was a 5-6 foot shark just waiting under our boat. As soon as it hit the water, that shark slammed it and like to snatch the pole out of his hand. I mean, it was just that quick. So, yeah, there's plenty of sharks out there. So if you never caught a shark and you want to catch a shark, go ahead and catch a shark.
Did you get him up next to the boat and then be able to
Yeah, we got him up next to the boat
and
and dehooked them.
Cool.
And we try to get the hooks out when we can.
Yeah,
I mean, if it's a
yeah.
big shark and it's a dangerous situation, it'll
be smart about it.
Yeah, we'll leave it, but we try to get it out. So it was a good day, man. It was beautiful weather, good calm seas. You always get to see cool stuff when you're out there. Tons of turtles. So we didn't catch anything that we got to bring home and fillet, but we got to isolate these spots and take them off of our GPS. It's either keep them or take them off.
Yeah, sure.
Some of the ones we didn't catch anything on, but it was a good hump. It doesn't necessarily mean they're not there. Just it's fishing.
Well, if they are able to reel something into the boat and see it, especially a shark on your first time out, that's a successful day.
Yeah,
that's a good day.
Anytime
for anybody.
For me, when the rod goes off, that's awesome. I don't care what's on the end of it. It's always it's always that Christmas present. When you get it up close to the boat.
You know what? And I was watching some fishing shows last week, and that's what appeals to us. That's what is. Even watching it on TV or a video or something, you want to see. Yeah, it's that coming up part right there.
Absolutely. So we're going to try something new on the next trip. We're going to go out on the Gulf Coast. And I'm going to talk to Manny, and they're starting to catch mahi on the Gulf Coast. Now, you got to go out same amount, actually, 20, 30 miles. You can even, 30, 35 miles, which is the same over here. So, and you catch, the fish just migrate from south, and they go around to the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, sure do.
So right now, everything's pretty much sitting on the Gulf Coast, waiting to migrate back around the Keys, and back up the East Coast. So, we're just waiting for that. So we should head them off in the Gulf Coast. And it's also scallop
season.
You mean
everything or just a certain kind of fish?
Anything that migrates, your cobia, your wahoo, your mahi, your, all that stuff. They stay in that Gulf Stream. Because don't forget, the Gulf Stream goes to the Gulf.
Sure, yeah.
That's why it's where it originates is the Gulf Stream. And it's a couple, 5,000-6,000 feet deep out there. So
that's wild.
Depending on how far you go. So, yeah, it's a little bit different. The Gulf is considered a bowl, and then right in the middle of the bowl there's a crack, and that's the Gulf Stream.
You're considered a bowl, and right in the middle is a crack.
Amen.
See what I did there? How
I see where you spun that around there. I like that. So that's what I did this weekend. Nothing too exciting. And then Sunday, I think I just laid in bed. I think I just did
You recouped.
I did.
Yeah.
I recouped. Because, we went out and had a pre-production meetings Friday night, and
That was a good one.
that was a good one. So
I had to ponder on that all day Saturday.
did you?
Yeah.
Did you? Saw the error of your ways, did you?
Pondering.
So it was it was a great week. Anytime you get off in the ocean, you get out there and you're having fun.
Oh, sure.
To me, that's life. That's what it's all about. So Mike, what you got? What
I
do you
don't know.
got? I hear some music in there.
Yeah, we got some top stories that we probably should.
Let's jam that out because I know
chit-chat.
we got so much to.
Oh, speaking of jamming, we are jamming, aren't we?
We are jamming.
You mentioned something about some closures going on there, Rodney, and you are correct. Gag grouper. Closing in state waters off the coast of Franklin, Wakulla, Jefferson, and Taylor counties July 1st, with the last day of harvest being June 30th. I thought one interesting point, and I've said this before, when you read articles like this, if you read through, you pick something up that you didn't know, or
Right.
it's full of information, those guys at FWC.
Oh yeah.
I got an idea on what they're doing here.
Yeah.
But it was reminding us that it was reminding us something that
What, was it reminding us?
that the shore to 9 nautical miles off the Gulf of Mexico is state waters.
That's the key because a lot of people that fish on the Gulf Coast assume it's the same on the East Coast, the Atlantic Coast.
Yep.
It is not.
These are things you need to lock in your brain and know because these are big deals.
Limits are different. Waters are different. So, on the East Coast, it's 3 nautical miles.
Yeah.
So you got a 6-mile difference there.
But check out this last paragraph. It says, gag grouper caught in federal waters past 9 miles during the federal season and in state waters outside the 4-county region may be taken ashore. Basically, if you're outside of where it's legal,
Right.
you can bring them back in, but boats with gag groupers aboard may not stop and must have their gear stowed while traveling through the state waters
You hit it.
in that region.
That's what's
And
important.
I've wondered that before.
That's what's important. You hit it right on the head. Once you fish those federal waters and you have your gag groupers, when you come into that 9-mile mark, you better be stowed. It's called stow and go. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You stow your gear and you get to where you're going. You go straight to your location nonstop.
Makes total sense.
Yeah. Don't try to pull. If your boat is stopped and you're in state waters and you have a gag grouper in there, they're going to consider that a state water caught gag grouper. So be aware of that.
So
Don't
don't stop.
Don't stop.
Don't
stow
stop.
and go.
Yeah, stow and go. I like that. What else we got here? Bears
talking
out there. There's an ordinance, Lake County Commission for passing an ordinance to help reduce bear conflicts. And this, we'll get into the bear hunting season. This will lead right into that we talked about earlier. But the county commission has passed an ordinance that requires residents to remove food attractants such as unsecured garbage and encourage the use of bear-resistant trash cans. Bear-wise communities commit to learning to coexist with bears, knowing when and how to report bear activities, and securing all potential food sources. I mean, when they started talking about the bear hunt back in 2015, I mean, this was part of the talk. Are we doing it because they're nuisances? And really all it boils down to is a lot of common sense here on how to coexist with these things because the bears are there for one reason. Food.
Be bears. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it's food, and they're not there to attack people. They're there to get into your garbage, and if you make it accessible for them, they're going to be there, and then guess what? They're going to come back the next night.
That's exactly
and the
right.
next night.
Bears do bear stuff.
So a lot of what the FWC has been doing is educating people. It says during the last year's legislative session, was $500,000, which includes $375,000 from the year's bear hunt permits, which allows the government to make resistant containers more available in communities with higher levels. So they're doing all this stuff to provide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But it was a total of $825,000. They set aside for figuring out this bear thing.
Right. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
And guess who's paying that, by the way?
Me?
The hunters.
Yeah.
The fishermen.
Yeah.
The campers.
The licenses, all this. Yeah,
The
exactly.
licenses. Yeah, it's not on your your bologna sandwich up at the up at the Grab It and Grunt up there. It's you're not getting taxed on that. We're paying that.
Yeah, they also said additional funds come from sales of the Conserve Wildlife license plate, also known as the bear tag.
That's exactly
right. So all
right.
of these things fund these propositions.
Not to stop it, did you see how many calls they got last year?
I didn't until this next article, but let's get into that.
Okay, go ahead.
No, because this is good. Talk about the bear hunt, Rodney. You brought this up the other day.
So I was curious. We got like a hot topic, right out. We have a friend with the FWC, and he right out of the chute, he says, "Hey man, no bear hunting." Now I couldn't post it because
Yeah, what did I text back to you?
You were like, "Hey, can we post it?"
He said, "I'll check."
Yeah, so I never got the answer back, so I waited. So and it came out the next day.
Smart move.
So basically, we're talking. They're doing a lot of research. They're basically wanting to know that their ducks in a row. When they start, it's not completely. It's being reevaluated for 2017 season, and this will be reevaluated every year. It may be a hit year, miss year, hit year. So all that'll come into play. 21,000 calls regarding bears last year, Mike. That's 21,000.
That's just calls saying, "Hey, I see a bear," or "There's a nuisance," or
exactly.
something.
It's
that's how many times their phone rang.
So out of the 21,000, they had to go to the site 700 times.
That's a lot of man hours.
That's a lot of man hours.
Probably not talking just down the block.
What do you think? It's 2 or 3 hours a visit, maybe?
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
Including traffic. It's got to be.
It's got to be. So you're talking 2 or 3 hours, 700 times.
Yeah.
The math on that is just unbelievable. A lot of times we go, it's just me. It's just one bear. What?
No, exactly. Yeah.
We see it in a one person perspective. This is actually breaking it down. So they're putting the outreach and the educational information is going to nearly 50,000 people.
That's an outreach.
That is outreaching.
Yeah, when you're talking about educating, providing garbage cans, teaching people how to be more. What do they call them? Bear communities or bear friendly? Bear
aware. We should be more bear. Bear necessity. We're talking bear necessity. I'm sorry.
Nope, I think you got something there, Rodney.
I'll never do that. So go ahead with your stuff, man. I'm sorry.
No, that was good. That's exactly. Make sure those facts got in there because they've been doing a diligent effort on, where that money does go from, or go for that's been raised.
So yeah, that's definitely that. And there you have it.
I also one of the top news or one in the news feed for the FWC this week was a follow up. From the gator incident out at Disney that happened a week or so ago here.
Yes.
Do you want to start on this, Rodney? What do you know?
So basically what the FWC is saying, they actually harvested, or not necessarily, they removed 6 alligators. Now, my question was and has been, for those of you not aware, we had a young child. His name was Lane Graves. Pulled into the water at Walt Disney World at Seven Seas Lagoon, which is 45 years there. It's never happened before. They do have alligators, and you're wondering, how do these things get there? Well, they walk there. They was built on a swamp. There's plenty of places for them to come from and to go. Bay Lake, which is also connected to it, is a natural lake. They actually connected those two lakes with a man-made bridge.
Yeah.
It's one of the only man-made water bridges in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it was connected. So these alligators can just come and go as they please. So they removed 6 alligators, and they said that they captured 3 of the 6 that they believe is in the size range believed to be the subject animal, to fit the subject animal. Now, they're not saying how big this was. I was curious. I would say it was probably 6 foot plus is what I'd say.
Yeah.
Around that mark. Because a 2-year-old would definitely be prime material for a 6 foot plus alligator. So they took DNA. They just could not match if they got the gator. Now they're pretty confident they did. Am I confident they did? It just depends on where they pulled the alligators from.
Yeah, to quote their article, says out of an abundance of caution, the FWC continued intense round-the-clock monitoring and trapping efforts until either a positive identification of the alligator involved was established, or all alligators fitting the description of the responsible animal had been removed. During the investigations, trappers humanely removed 6 alligators from the area. No additional gators of the size capable of the attack have been observed or taken since June 16th.
So it's going to be a hot spot for a long time. I mean,
well, there's a lot of damage control going on here, and from the safety issues and from Disney, obviously, they want to put this to bed and just have people think the gator's been gotten. And you know what? It probably has. It probably has.
Yeah, if they're not seeing,
but
any
there's
other
a lot
alligators,
there's a lot of reading between the lines here that they've done their best with what they've had to work with.
That's exactly right.
Trust me, if they could know they've gotten it, they want nothing more than to know they've gotten that gator. But and I really appreciate they've done a good job of stating the facts here and saying, DNA not proof positive. They couldn't really match up the teeth marks, but they tried to do that. And
short of knowing exactly what went wrong there, or how it was bitten, or that case there. As I said, we did 3 interviews on 104.1. We did it with Russ and Jimmy in the morning, the Monsters in the morning. We were on the News Junkie in the afternoon, and then we were on Phillips File in the late afternoon. So we did 3 interviews, and what's funny is we called it right on. We hit it right on the head. I mean, it was just a hands down knock out of the park on our end. Only from seeing, 35 years of doing this and seeing the alligators in their natural habitat, we kind of picked up on it. So we don't know 100% that it was captured, and we don't know 100% that it wasn't. So I think we're pretty confident that it was, because they're not seeing any more, and they haven't caught any more of any sizable length.
Yeah, and to put it in, you can't put something like this in perspective, but I mean, obviously they're trying to. This was FWC's way of kind of summarizing. They've done what they can do. Here's the facts. They've laid it out. But I just want to read the quote from Executive Director at the FWC, Nick Wiley. He said, "There are no words to describe the profound sadness we feel for the family of Lane Graves. We will continue to keep this family close to our hearts as they deal with the pain and grief of the loss of Lane." So, I mean, outside of that, there's nothing more to say, because that you just can't comprehend a family having gone through this. So, but this did raise some interesting gator questions, and as I was perusing through the summary, Rodney, it brought a couple things up that I wanted to ask you face to face, because there's a size cutoff. Like even now, when if you're looking out your backyard and you got a gator out there, there's a determination. You're going to call somebody, and there's a determination of, first of all, whether they're even going to act on that or not.
Right.
What are some of those parameters?
Well, there's a couple things that if you live on Lake Toho and you make that call, they're not coming.
Yeah.
So water body parameters are what's going to, start where do you live? How big is the lake that you live on? 4, 5, 8, 10 acres. Then that's within their range. I don't know if they actually give you the water body size. Does it tell you in there?
No, you know what I think they do say, and it has to do with if they're living in a wildlife area that can support the gators.
Exactly.
Basically, if they're in their home area surroundings,
we're not coming.
Exactly. Yeah, if they're in your pool, they're not sustainable there. They're going to come and get it.
Exactly.
But yeah, that has a lot to do with it.
And then they go by a size that would be that size would be the 4 foot range.
Yeah. I think that's the cutoff.
Yeah.
If it's under 4 foot. And one of the questions was asked, why aren't alligators less than 4 feet removed? And then the response specifically said, alligators less than 4 feet in length are not large enough to be dangerous unless handled.
Exactly.
They eat fish, frogs, and other small animals. Typically, they are not large enough to be a threat, even to small pets. It's an interesting point, because they're more skittish and you can run right up on top of them. They're going to take off. mean, try to catch one. They're not that easy.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
Actually, don't try. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Don't try to catch one. Trust Rodney.
If you listen to Mike, you're gonna get bit.
The mere presence of a small alligator is not cause for concern. Occasionally, alligators less than 4 feet are legitimate problems and must be addressed. If an alligator is less than 4 feet in length and it's a concern, you need to call the Alligator Nuisance Hotline.
And that would be
Aw, snap.
oh snap. Statewide nuisance alligator. You know what, Mike? I've never seen that, by the way. I just want you to know all the because normally when I see, hey, Mike, I just want to point out, look at that fish on there, on the alligator, on the FWCs.
That would be a brook trout.
That's a brook trout, Mike.
It looks like you're painting. Yeah. So there's the number you want to call if you have a nuisance alligator, FWC 866 FWC Gator or 866-392-4286. And at least call them, find out if they can come out and get it, and they'll give you the parameters. But that is the number.
In those cases, especially if you have children, I mean, it's better safe than sorry. And I've said it a million times. Those parents didn't do anything different than I wouldn't have done, and that I haven't done with my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always let them go to the water edge. It's not a second thought to me, because it's a minute possibility. But when you're that person, it's 100% possibility, and then you really have to reevaluate the situation.
Yeah.
You know?
And it was a side note. When I did this graphic on Snap, for some reason I was thinking it was statewide nuisance alligator hotline. But then when I put it in with SNAP, so it was actually the statewide nuisance alligator pot line. And that was something, I guess, totally different when you actually, it's a different number, actually a different area code. Right. So I think that's how, I think it's at Denver, it's a 303 or something, I don't know.
Oh, really? Okay, so yeah, you don't want to call that number.
I don't know, but there's the number. Call on.
So call if you got any, or if you're in question, honestly, call the Rodney Rogers Outdoors hotline. I mean, feel free to call it. I mean, what it'll do is it'll send me a message, and I'll call you back. And
what you actually get is an answer with personality.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You'll get the answer you're looking for, and probably a chuckle or two.
What is your emergency? You got an alligator. You're the 9th alligator today. I'm sorry.
4 foot, does that seem like a logical, common sense cutoff point?
I honestly think it should be 5 foot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A 4 foot alligator, like I said, it's just not. I mean, and believe it or not, there's a big difference between 4 and 5 feet. I mean,
is it a year's difference, right?
It is. It's about it's about a year, a little more, year and a half, depending on their growth rate. But yeah, it's about a year's difference.
And what are we talking?
We're talking a little wider alligator on a 5 footer. We're talking, obviously a foot longer, so it gains weight.
How old is a 4 foot alligator?
A 4 foot alligator.
Yeah, you caught that, didn't you? I like something gurgle up when I'm talking. I'm like, oh, that's an alien coming out.
The best part was you were like, how old? Particularly, how old is a 4 foot alligator?
I'm like, I'm going to go with that.
So it's about 4 years old. Now, remember, alligators grow about a foot a year till they're about 6-7 years old, and then it's inches per year up to about 50 years.
Okay.
An average out, an alligator lives to be about 50 years old. So, 5 foot's around 5 or 6 years old.
Sure.
So, I mean, they have a little more weight on them, and I think, the 5 foot would be the cutoff. But you wouldn't know. I think 4 foot would be the safe number. And then that also determines whether this thing would be removed, relocated, and or which you probably have that coming up next. Relocated or humanely exterminated, or however they put it. I say killed it.
Well, it's funny you say that.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry. Okay. For some reason, my alarm's going off.
It sounded like my wake-up alarm. Like it was time to get up. I'm like, please, and one more hour, please, of sleep.
It's supposed to be 8:30 a.m., but apparently I set it for p.m.
Well, there was a little bit of vagueness in that when I was trying to think through that, sort of reading this article 4 times. So I wanted to ask you, do they relocate them?
Yes.
Or do they euthanize them? Do they? I mean, because when on the article on the remove the 6 from the Disney property, it said humanely.
Right.
So I was assuming they just moved them to somewhere else.
Yeah.
But this actually said, sorry, Rodney.
No, go ahead.
Relocated gators often to try to return to their capture site. They can create problems for people and other alligators along the way. If an alligator successfully returns, capturing it again would be necessary and likely more difficult the second time. To avoid creating a problem at the release site, nuisance alligators would need to be relocated to a remote area where they would not encounter people.
Mm-hmm.
These remote areas already have healthy alligator populations, and the ones that already live there have established social structures, and the introduction of a new gator in these areas would likely cause fighting,
Yep.
possibly resulting in death of the resident alligator or the introduced
That's
alligator.
exactly right. 90% of the time, unless it's a 12 or 13 footer that they could take to places like Gatorland or, one of these gator zoos.
Well, we don't know. They might have ended up in Gator. It may exactly been their new home.
Yeah. Well, those alligators, I guarantee you, died. They're gone. Yeah, they cut
The Disney ones?
Yeah, because they cut them open to see if there was any parts inside.
Oh, of course they did. So which part of that was humane?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess they
Quickly.
Yeah, quickly.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Humane doesn't mean we gave them first class
right.
back to the swamps.
Back to another swamp. Humanely means we just killed them quickly. You know, we didn't bludgeon them with a.
They didn't see
hammer.
it coming. Basically, what that means.
Exactly.
Bludgeoned.
Totally didn't see it coming. What is that up there? Poof. Oops. That was pretty humane. So I'm sorry, I'm just not joking about it, but yeah, that's what they mean by humane. So I mean, the key is when I tell everybody, and they go, well, how do these gators find these ponds? They just walk and they find them. How does a turtle find the same shore 50 years later when it swam away when it was a baby? That's the last time I've seen it, and it has the eggs.
There's something built into these
animals
things
have a way, and then for us to try to guess what it is, they just do. Let's just go with it. They just do.
There's a retention pond on the other side of the house across the street, and we get turtles in our backyard, but they know where to go. I mean, like how they
Right
just
back.
know.
They
They
just
know where
know.
the water's at. These
Yeah.
things are instinctual.
That's exactly right.
Senses we can't comprehend.
And they, I said it on the, on the News Junkie is I saw an alligator, a 10-foot alligator, my cousin and I, miles away from any water whatsoever, and he was just, strolling across a cow pasture. So, I zoomed in, with Google Maps to see where's the nearest water, and it was almost 5 miles away. So this thing walked a long way. I mean, I've seen dead ones on the 417. I'm talking 10, 12-foot alligators that were dead up against the fence, and I'm like, where were you going?
Yeah.
So they were just, and the fence that he was trying to get to, the lake he was trying to get to had been fenced in. So they could tell the water was there.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get to it. So, I mean, these things are absolutely amazing, and they just do some amazing stuff. They've been around 60 million years for a reason.
That's
Mike.
crazy.
So,
Let me ask you this.
absolutely.
I ran across something when reading one of my favorite periodicals, the Law Enforcement Weekly, the FWC Law Enforcement Weekly. Let me read this to you, because again, it brought up more questions. I said, let me ask Rodney. This is in Gulf County, and while checking a vessel on the
Appalachian.
Thank you.
Apalachicola.
Thank
Yep,
you.
Apalachicola.
River, 3 occupants for fishing licenses. Wait, let me start it over because I got so tied up on the Apalachicola.
Apalachicola.
Checking a vessel on the river, had 3 occupants. They're checking for fishing license and compliance. Officer McMillan observed 4 catfish underneath the passenger's feet. Right behind him at the operator's feet was an orange extension cord with a chain tied to the end of it, which is commonly used to shock fish.
Oh.
There were no fishing poles of any kind on the vessel. Officer McMillan asked the operator where his shocker was located, and he pulled an electrical device used to shock fish, snuff can style, out of his back right pocket. The shocking device and extension were seized as evidence. The owner-operator was cited for taking freshwater fish with an illegal device, electroshocking, and the passengers were issued written warnings. What the heck is electroshocking devices on fish? I've never heard of such a thing.
Well, here's the deal. The FWC uses electro devices to do surveys of fish. So basically what it does is it stuns the fish. Now, depending on the type of fish, it depends on the amount of electricity it takes to stun these fish.
Okay.
So the FWC, if they want to do a full fish, survey of gar, mudfish, all these. Remember, we got a thing that we got to do, scales.
Yeah,
Scales
right.
make all the difference in the world. They protect the fish against that electroshock as well. So when they're talking snuff can, basically it's just a little battery operator that puts out, you can put a 9-volt battery in a taser and get out 60,000 volts.
Gotcha.
And you can send that down an extension cord to a chain that hangs in the water and pop it. Catfish are the first thing to float up because there's no scales, they're very smooth skin, and they're affected immediately. And they just float right to the surface.
Really?
Yeah, and then they just net them and throw them in a boat. That's an easy way to catch catfish. But if you get caught, that is a big deal. I mean, that's poaching. I mean, that's poaching to the nth degree. They probably did it just for fun. And, dude, I saw this on YouTube.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
Because I'm
I could
sure
see
somewhere
that,
in
yeah.
the United States it's probably legal. I don't know where. Can't imagine it would be, but somewhere it is.
Or in some parts, people just don't care.
Exactly. I think that's probably the consensus there. Most people don't even care. An electro device is handy in the right hands. What they do is they pick them up, they put them in a tub in a boat, and they survey the bass, they tag them, they do whatever, and then they re-release them.
Okay, so it's not necessary to kill them. It's
No.
just like a stun gun a cop uses.
That's exactly
You're
right.
down for the count.
You're
do
down
what
for
we
the
need to
count.
do.
They revive them in this water. There's two guys. There's two prods, probes that go in. They send a surge, pow, just a quick. Everything floats up in like a 5-6 foot vicinity. They net them as quick as they can. They put them in the tub in the middle. They tag. They do surveys. They pull scales, and then they release them. So
you just cost me like an hour and a half on YouTube tonight.
oh yeah, you're gonna be looking up snuff
I'm
can
going
catfish
searching.
shocker. We're gonna have the
That's crazy.
catfish 2000.
Oh my God.
So and catfish are the most susceptible because they have the thinnest skin.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
they're usually the ones that catch all the blame. They're the first to go. So that's exactly right. So that's how he got in trouble.
All right. Well, you
got
want
a nail.
I don't know. I got lots of things.
You've got mail.
There we go.
We get letters. We get stuff.
Whoa, yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
Send me an email with all the details.
Another freaking email. Another freaking email song.
Mail is here.
Yeah, I'm a top flight, hold you tight, get you there by daylight, do you right overnight mail.
It is tough to listen to that without bobbing your head.
I know. Man.
I just glanced over the screen over here and I just see you doing the down and dirty funky chicken.
That's my favorite time, man. I love emails. The mail.
All right, Rodney, here we go. You ready?
I'm ready, my man.
Jeff from Kissimmee, Florida says, hey, Rodney, if I get a ticket for fishing without a license, will buying a license make my ticket go away?
It depends. The answer to that is yes and no. The officer may come to you and say, hey, you don't have a fishing license, but I'll tell you what I'll do. If you buy one online right now while I'm standing here, I will not give you a ticket. If he gives you a ticket with no fishing license and he puts a dollar amount on it, you now have a $85 ticket, and you got to go buy your fishing license.
I mean, how do you argue with that? That's you're coming out pretty good at the end of that stick.
And I'll tell you, I've been caught without a license 4 times, and 4 times I've never gotten a ticket.
Because you got 4 licenses the same year?
Yeah, these were different years. One of them I was real cocky, Mike. We got caught without our license. You know what? That was back before they would email you and say, hey, Mr. Rogers, your license is about to be expired. Because now they'll email you. And you go, oh, yeah, I need to. Now you got an app for it. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
Because if you have a fishing license, you have an email on file, and they're going to tell you.
Yeah.
You got an expired license. So.
And these things are, like you say, with smartphones, these are remedied instantly now.
Instantly.
Make a phone call, get on your app, whatever the situation is.
And all they want you to do is be legal, and 99% of them. Now, if you say, look, I'm Mr. Officer, guess what? You're going to get a $90 ticket. You have to pay it. And you still don't have to get your license.
Don't be that guy. Unless you got $90 to just blow.
You want to test the old law enforcement officer out for $90, go ahead and have at it. But I'd be nice. And, yeah, a lot of times.
All right, Rodney.
Lay it on us. You all right?
T-Water 33
T-Water
says
Oh, that's...
drift fishing versus anchor fishing.
That's just... Well, T-Water 33. Woo! Watch how you say that name right there, Mike. Drift fishing versus anchor fishing. There's a couple things. Depends location. Drift fishing is basically when you just put a bait out and you want to cover some ground.
Okay.
Let's say we're 30 miles offshore. We see a bottom that we want to fish. It's 100 feet deep. We're not dropping a 100-foot anchor out. What we'll do is we'll drop a heavy weight down to the bottom, and then we'll let the current bring our bait right over the structure we want to fish.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, if we're in 30 feet of water and we want to stay on that structure, we'll drop our weight. We'll drop our anchor just north of the current.
Sure.
Or south of the current, depending. And then we'll toss into the structure and fish the bottom from there. So either way, I mean, they both have their applications, and it just depends on depth and how you want to do it.
Okay.
Sebastian Inlet. Some people anchor, and fish the inlet and let their lines float through. And some people just put their lines out by the boat, and then they drift through the inlet and they catch fish.
Well, I was wondering that the one time when Kim and I went to River Ranch and we got a pontoon, and I was asking what's the difference between just dangling your rod, 15 yards behind the boat and just trolling really slow.
You can do it.
It's kind of the same thing as drifting. But this question really, drift fishing versus anchor fishing, sounds like it applies to any body of water.
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean,
you could do either in.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you're catfishing in a creek, you can drift down with the flow of the creek, or you can anchor and let your bait out. And then I like drift fishing a little more because you cover more ground. And then once you start getting bites, you can re-drift, go back up,
Sure.
north of the river
Sure.
and re-drift it again. Or you can anchor once you start getting the bites and go, okay, this must be where the fish are hanging out. Because remember, fish often hang around stuff for a reason. When you hit that spot, and you start catching fish, there's a reason. Stay right where the reasons are.
Okay. Is there? It sounds very similar to when you work a pond.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on foot. I mean, the thought process sounds to be very similar.
It is.
You're lake. You're working the body of water. You're moving around.
Constantly moving. Where some people will walk up to the edge and fish one spot, and why they're not catching fish. I see you looking at the hotline screen there. Hashtag
I am.
RRO.
Yeah, Randy wants to know, so why is it you need your fishing license on you while fishing when the FWC can just look?
Why do you need your driver's license on you when you're driving? When they're HWPs, highway, whatever they call
Yeah,
them.
well, so what's the answer?
The answer is you got a fishing license on you at all times.
Why? Get up, officer.
Officer, you get your butt back there and look it up, you lazy fella. Yeah, you got to have it on you at all times.
That's an identification.
Yeah, it's an identification. The same way with fishing, hunting.
Yeah, because if I don't have something on it with my photograph.
Your fishing license won't have your photograph. It'll just have your information. But the first thing, here's the process. They're going to ask you, do you have an ID? Yes. All right. Do you have a fishing license? Yes. They'll compare the two.
Sure.
If you have your driver's license says Randy and your ID says, Buford, you got a problem.
Can I just show them my app?
Sure. Absolutely. You can show them your information on your app. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You don't ever want to hand to law enforcement your cell phone, ever, period. Not even once, not even for a second. I wouldn't do it. I would do it in case of an emergency, if I didn't have my license with me, but I wouldn't do it.
But I could show it saying don't touch.
You either hand it to him or you don't. There's no in between.
So I probably should start carrying a hard copy because I keep it knowing I got it on my smartphone if I ever get.
Because remember, you hand them your phone, you just gave them permission to look through your phone.
Oh,
basically, is how that works. So, not that I've got anything bad on my phone. I just, I don't want to treat my phone.
Sure, no, I get it.
There might be a picture of him peeing on the side of the road.
All right, Mr. Rogers. Any tips for landing fish on barbless hooks? Wants to know Howie from Gainesville, Florida.
You know what's funny, because I just got that question not even yesterday. We were talking about fishing in Tennessee. There's some rivers up there. You can go to these state parks, and you have to have barbless hooks, meaning they have to be easy to get out of the trout. Now, here's the key to the barbless hooks: keep a tight line when you're reeling in the fish, and I mean keep a tight line. Just keep reeling. Don't give them any slack because they can shake that hook right out. So, Barbless hooks are great. They're a lot of fun to fish with. I mean, if you're in a pond that, that has a lot of small fish, barbless hooks are perfect for that.
Because you can catch and release all day long. You're not getting
Absolutely.
snagged, and it's easy to
Exactly.
get them in and out.
Because a lot of times, when you pull a hook out with a barb, I mean, you'll tear their lips off, you'll tear their face off. I mean, it can really put some damage on them.
Interesting.
So, if you're just in a pond, there's a lot of fish, a lot of small fish, and you're not keeping anything, by all means, fish with a barbless hook. You can cut them off, you can file them off, you can do whatever. It's a lot of fun. I've done it. I've enjoyed it. I believe it or not, I didn't lose that many fish compared to what I normally would. Just keep a tight line. You know, if you don't want your fish to jump, remember, put your pole down in the water. Keep your pole low. The reason they jump is because your pole is high and you're reeling them to the surface.
Okay.
So
They're in chase.
They're going. You're leading them.
Okay.
You got them by the head, and you're the one that's directing their direction.
Okay.
So put your pole down in the water and keep your pole down, and they'll stay down in the water, and then you flip them on the bank.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
It does.
Okay.
Because you've said it. It sounds right to me.
You said it, and it's got to be right.
We've talked. Times be a change, Rodney. We got some new things coming up here.
You reckon?
We're not gonna pre-promote, but I mean, we are working on some new stuff and things, and what?
No, well, I'm listening.
Yeah. But I'd like to reach out for some help for
Yes.
some people.
Oh, yes. I know what you and I talked about earlier.
Yeah,
By all
because
means.
we're getting ready to do some stuff. I mean, we're working on right now. You can go to the Rodney Rogers Outdoors website or go to the YouTube to watch the live version of this show that you're watching right now. We're getting ready to flip a switch that's going to allow us to do it just like it is now, plus broadcast live onto your Facebook, onto the Rodney Rogers Outdoors Facebook page. So much like earlier, people get a notification. Boom, there you are. You launch Facebook and you're watching this show.
Right.
And it'll go to both of those simultaneously. That's where we're heading. So we're working on some more things on the behind the scenes and the music with the show and stuff like that. But here's my reach out, my
Request for information.
Request for information engagement.
Engagement. Oh, yes.
If you go to the Rodney Rogers Outdoors website, and really you can do it from any page on there. You go to the home page, but any page on the right-hand side, there's a red microphone that pops up. And I think it says something like record me or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
What's it say, Rodney?
I'll tell you here in a second.
But I want to get people calling in, leaving a recording, and saying nothing more than, hey, it's Mike. You're listening to Rodney Rogers Outdoors. Or, hey, whatever you want to say, but some quick little snippets that we can use as the radio. You hear people say them all the time.
Yep.
And I would love nothing more than these things to be our friends, our listeners, our people who follow us, the people who are engaged with us constantly. So
it basically says send voicemail on the right-hand side, and it says, we would love to hear from you. Please record your message. Is your microphone ready? So basically it's going to ask you, record, listen, and send.
yeah, and if you're doing this from a desktop, you can literally just click it, hit record, and talk into your computer microphone, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything. It's automatic.
Right.
If you're on an Android device, pretty much the same thing. If you're on an iOS device, there is an app that it's going to say you need to download this app. It's free. Do it. Keep it on your phone because we'd love to. It's a great way to ask Rodney a question that we can then feed to the shows and use for information and content for the shows. But for right now, it's really easy. Hey, it's Mike. This is Mike, and you're listening to Rodney Rogers Outdoors. I don't care. Make it up. Something like that. You get the point, what I'm trying to do.
Or hey, this is Ashton.
Yes.
Ashton is one of our little fans.
Age not applies here. Yeah, whatever, anything.
It can be any age. If your name is Ashton.
But your name has to be Ashton.
Yeah.
From what I understand. Right?
Little Ashton send us and clip on, and say whatever, actually.
Yeah.
Mike, I don't like you. Or anything.
Yeah.
No, they can't say that.
You could say that. It probably won't get much airtime. Because I know someone.
It will if I get a hold of it.
Hey, Rodney, we're going into 4th of July weekend. Before we're back here, it's going to be 4th of July. So a couple things.
Tell me.
Boating safety.
Boating safety is
going
key.
on the water.
Drinking and boating, let me tell you what, it is just as bad as drinking and driving a car. They will nail you. They are out there in droves. The FWC is working with the Marine Patrol of the Sheriff's County of every single county out there So be prepared. The Marine Patrol is in high alert. I mean, they're going to be. This is it. This is where they make their dollars right here.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
nothing more than the highway patrol doing speed traps. They're out there to make a
Absolutely.
point. Don't drink and boat.
I'll tell you where we boat. You'll see the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard will be there as well. You'll see the Coast Guard just sitting there with their boats with binoculars. They got some pretty awesome binoculars. So definitely don't drink and boat nor drink and drive. You will be Ubers out there. Do they have a boat Uber?
That'd be cool.
We ought to make one. Call it Boober. I'm just saying. If you do that,
Don't tease me, Rodney.
and you
'cause
make
that's
$1
awesome.
million, well, I'll get into the Boober with you. Welcome to Boober. How can I help you?
So yeah, but I mean, be conscious, be safe this weekend. Don't be silly. And of course, there's fireworks. And you know what's funny though is because for tips a couple years ago, you wrote some tips that I dug up that I wanted to make sure that we.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because they were succinct to the point and definitely spot on. So as we go into the 4th of July weekend, here's a few safety tips.
And these were my old tips that I put up a couple years ago.
Yeah, so you probably modified some of them, probably got some better
I
ones.
probably got some better ones.
So if you don't mind, Rodney.
No, by all means, Mike, have at it. Absolutely.
Switcher, please put the camera on me. Thank you. There we go. Perfect. Let's do this. Most serious injuries happen on July 4th, so set off your explosives on the day before or the day after. Brilliant, Rodney. Like it.
That's how I roll.
1 for 1. Be sure to set off fireworks set off at least one firework as a tribute to Vulcan, ancient Roman god of fire, or face his wrath. I've never seen that side of you. It struck me a little funny, but
I'm a Vulcan guy.
that's probably something maybe you've evolved.
I'm all about the V.
Here's one I thought was actually pretty good. If a firework fails to ignite, there may be something wrong with it, so don't go wasting it. Have your cousin Nikki inspect it closer.
See, I remember that one well, actually.
I mean, they're expensive.
Yeah.
You can't just leave
no.
it lay there and
Absolutely.
fizzle out, right?
Exactly.
Anyone about to set off a black snake should prepare for major disappointment. Agreed.
Totally.
You nailed that one,
You
Rodney.
nailed it.
Remember that fireworks cannot hurt you when you're drunk. Nothing can.
No.
You changed.
You are
that one you've
impervious.
updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the new one.
Okay.
That was the new one.
The most effective treatment for burns is to go around showing people the burn and saying, "Look, I burned myself. It really hurts."
Makes the pain instantly go away.
Yeah. Distract people, get the attention. Glow sticks are great alternative to sparklers for children whose parents are absolutely no fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, totally. Remember that one? I remember that one well. Mine, they would hand me the hot end of the glow stick.
Yeah. Yes.
Work
Okay.
that one out.
It's safest to be as far as possible from the site of ignition. Perfect, Rodney. So instead of lighting the firework directly, set it off via a trail of gunpowder that's at least 500 feet away.
So much more effective.
I mean, you just don't find this information on
No,
Google.
no.
I mean, you have
Oh,
to
no.
dig. This is Rodney Rogers digging here.
Absolutely.
A couple more here. When buying fireworks, remember, the bigger the firework, the higher it will fly. And the less likely it is to hurt you.
Exactly.
Right? Perfect.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That's
Children should only use fireworks under the strict supervision of an adult or a slightly older cousin. Cousin thing, yeah.
slightly older.
And lastly,
My best one.
and this applies to more than just 4th of July activities, do not invite stupid people to your fireworks display.
Ever.
I'm sure there's a story behind that, but
Yeah,
it's to the point.
I
And
won't even talk. We're done talking about Nick.
but
And there you have it.
but that relates to us so much more.
Totally relates to us. So, as Mike said, it's 4th of July weekend. Everybody have a safe, absolutely safe. We'd like to see
please.
you back here next Tuesday.
Yes, please.
Thank you for hanging out
Yeah,
with us.
absolutely.
We love having you with us. Don't forget about our voicemail app. Go to the RodneyRogersOutdoors.com. Leave us a voicemail saying, "Hey, my name's Ashton, and I listen to Rodney Rogers Outdoors." And as my mama said 18 million times, and I pray I get to say it half as much, you kids get outside and stay.